Okay, so now that you have your neon portrait completed, if you would like to do a second step to just really elevate your work, there's another thing that you can do by adding in some different types of brushes, kind of like a smoke brush. So what you're going to do is you're going to head on over to this website called Brusheezy, BRUSHEEZY.com. This is where you can get some free brushes to kind of download into Photoshop, similar to how we were doing fonts, except these are now brushes. So I'm going to go ahead and just type in the word smoke. And when I do that, it's going to give me an option for different type. Obviously, we don't want to do the premium ones. Those ones are going to cost. I personally like the smoke that is a little bit more like cloudy, I would say, that has definition. So like this one, for example, has a lot of shadowing, which is really good. This one is all kind of the same coloring, which doesn't work very well. You really want that definition and value. So I'm going to click on this one, but feel free to try different ones that you want. And you're going to do a free download. Once it's done downloading, it's honestly a really quick step. All you have to do is go back into your Photoshop when you install it, it'll upload into Photoshop for you, and you just kind of, it's almost like a stamp rather than an actual brush. You're not going to be painting anything. It's really, really easy. So now that I'm getting my download ready, so I'm going to click on the download at the top corner. So I'm going to open it up into the taskbar. And it's going to look like this. It's an ABR brush file, which is just a different type of tool. So when I double click on it, then it's going to install into my computer. So it's really simple. So I'm going to go over into my panel now. Very, very important. You do this on a new layer. The last thing that you want is to do this on the original, because then you can't erase it and go back. So the next thing that you're going to do is make sure that your settings are set up too. You want to make sure that your opacity is at 100% for now. So where to find it? Under my brush, you'll have a panel. So if I go to the top menu up here, this shows you all the different brushes that you have. And there are my smoke brushes here. So I can just kind of choose which one I think would look best. I'm going to try this button down at the bottom. I wouldn't modify these unless you want to experiment with changing the direction of them. So for example, this is the direction that the smoke is going to go. If I change the direction here, I can have it coming from the side or from the roof. So if I wanted to try that, I could. I'm going to make my brush bigger again. Too big and it'll kind of, like, it won't show. So you might have to kind of play around with it. So I'm going to start from here, and I'm going to try some different stuff. So you can see that it's kind of painting in its one little area. I'm going to make my spacing down to 0. Let's see what that does. I might have to go a little bit larger. And right now I have red coloring. I could change the coloring to a different spot too, just so you guys could see it better. So if I do a smaller segment, right? But what you don't want is like those lines, right? That's not something that you're going to want. So you're going to have to kind of play around with it a little bit, see what brush is going to work for you. Different ones are going to look better in certain parts of your picture. Like, do you want a brush to come across the end? I generally kind of like my smoke to match the coloring that I'm using, but feel free to try a different one that might suit better. Brush one that I chose is down at the bottom. Their size is going to start out really large, so you might have to zoom out of your frame. You can either do that by using the zoom tool over here by clicking on the negative, or you can do Command negative and it'll do it for you automatically also. And you might want to make your brush smaller, so the brackets on the keyboard can make your brush smaller. You could change the sizing here, or you can also just right click and choose it from that as well. And all you're going to do is click it once or twice. I'm not dragging and dropping by any means. I don't want it to go all over. I want it just to be in certain spots. Now I have white selected. But if I chose a different color, like red, like the rest of my picture, I could also try a contrasting color if I want. So like I'll try just in the corner and up in the corner again, to add in that kind of extra oomph so there's not as much negative space. You could also try multiple different brushes. So I have that one brush on this one, but then I'm going to hide that layer and I'm going to try a different brush and see if I like a different one. This is where the experimentation kind of comes in play, where like, you know, I really like this one versus that one. Trying one that takes over the whole frame on the bottom versus just the top. So let me zoom out a little bit more. So as you can tell, this smoke is like really intense. And if I zoom back in, okay, I could play with the opacity here if I don't want it to be too intense. I kind of sometimes like to layer my smoke too. So like I'll use like a white and then the color. So for example, I'll do white, zoom out first, and then I'll choose a red to go right on top of it. Like you could do a variety of things depending on if you wanted to have light and things like that. Now, if you don't like the smoke that you have, remember that you can always do a negative too by doing a mask. So like you could simply just hit the mask, do your paintbrush, and you're painting the smoke away with the smoke, right? You could bring your character in front of the smoke, or you could keep the smoke in the back. That's kind of also up to you. So I'm going to pick a different smoke brush here. I'll do a really narrow one. And so what I'm doing is I am taking away this smoke on the mask right here. Remember, we have our actual layer, and then we have the mask, and then I will paint it away. Black takes away, white brings back. Okay, and then as you can tell, it's taking away on this top corner. Command Z, go backwards a little bit more. So that was before and then after. Okay, and you can see on the mask. So that's just for added a little bit of fun. You can also technically do this with fire or lightning as well.